Soap. Can't do anything without the soap jar. That's right. Participants mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. This week is Parshas HaChodesh, ushering in the month of Nisan. After that, we read in the Chodesh Hazel Lachem, Rosh Chodashim Hu, Rishon Hu L'Chodshei Hashana. There's a haftorah that goes with Parshas HaChodesh from the Novi Yechezkel. It's a very difficult haftorah. Difficult not in terms of what the words mean, but we don't wrap our minds around what the Novi wants here. The Novi Yechezkel was most of his nevuah was in Bovel. He went into the exile together with Mordechai in the Golus, the first Golus. The Beis Hamikdash still stood. The Nebuchadnezzar came twice. So there was 11 years in between. The 11 years Tzidkiyahu was the Melech. Tzidkiyahu had promised the Nebuchadnezzar that he would not rebel against him. However, he broke his word, and therefore Nebuchadnezzar came a second time. The second time he destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. He took the Jewish people into exile into Bavel. About 10% went to Egypt, to Mitzrayim. The Novi Yirmiyahu went to Mitzrayim. The Novi Yechezkel went to Bavel. Since the beginning of their nevuah was in Eretz Yisrael, so therefore they remain Nevi'im. They retain the power of prophecy. But someone that never started to be a prophet in Eretz Yisrael never had the gift of prophecy in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael. So the same thing is true. We have the Nevi'im, Chagai, Sarya, Malachi, the last three Nevi'im. So they were in Bavel, but they came back there to Israel. They came back there to Israel. The power of Nevuah was given to them. They're the last three prophets in Sheyasar. So we have the prophet Yechezkel. So on Shavuos we read the first chapter of the prophet Yechezkel, which describes Maaseh Merkava, so to speak, what's doing in heaven. So again, it's very hard for us to relate to that, to the creatures that he sees, to the sounds, but it's a complete revelation. Portion say, we find in the Novi Yeshayahu that he said, Bishnas Mos HaMelech Uziyahu, V'eres Hashem Yoshev Al Kisei Rom B'Nisa. He has a vision, he's in heaven also. He did it, but there he has a very short, almost bland description of heaven. And the Malach just flies at him with burning coal that he touches to his lips and consecrates him as a Navi. The Novi Yechezkel is expansive, a very long chapter with great details about what's doing in heaven. So Chazal compared the two, and they gave the famous example of a Ben Ir and a Ben Kfar. There's somebody that say he's born in Manhattan or in Hong Kong or in London. And he sees a city, he sees another city, he sees Chicago. Chicago has a magnificent skyline, it's a big city, millions of people, but he's not overly impressed because he's a Ben-Ir. He comes from London, or he comes from New York, or he comes from Hong Kong. So therefore he takes it in stride. That was the Novi Yeshayahu. The Novi Yechezkel is a Ben Sfar. He comes from a small town. Never saw a building more than 2 stories high. You take him to Midtown Manhattan, so he's overawed. He's over impressed by it. Therefore, that's the expanse that we have in his description of heaven. But in the Haftorah that we're going to hear this Shabbos, Parshas HaChodesh, he describes, so all the Meforshim say that he's talking about the Bayis Shlishi. In other words, Chagai, Zcharia, Malachi spoke about the Bayis Sheni, the immediate Beis HaMikdash that was being built. Yechezkel, when he talks about the Beis HaMikdash, is talking about the future Beis HaMikdash, the Bayis Shlishi, not the Bayis Sheni. Therefore, he has different measurements for it. The size, he even has strange halachas regarding it. Because I will say that the Bikshu Ligno Sefer Yechezkel, they want to put the book away because Gorav Sosrim Divrei Torah. You seem to contradict the Torah in certain aspects of the description of the Beis HaMikdash. So there was a great Tana, Hanania, Ben Chizkiah, Ben Goram, who spent 13 years to reconcile all of the difficult places in the Novi Yechezkel so that it would remain included in the canon of the Bible, in the Kisei Kodesh that we have. But in this Haftorah, so we're talking here about the Bayis Shlishi. And there is an entire discussion amongst the Meforshim whether the Bayis Shlishi will be built miraculously. Rashi and others hold that it will descend from heaven. It will be a miraculous building. And we say that on Tisha B'Av. We say, Ki be'eshi tzarto, ve'esh ado asivinosa. Come down with fire. But other Rishonim, the Meiri and others say that the Bayis Shlishi will be built by human beings. Probably by a Chinese architect. And it will be built by human hands. So the Bayis Shlishi remains to us an enormous mystery. Simply because of that mystery, we see that in our time, no one is willing even to touch the subject. Because we don't know which direction to go or what to do. One of the points in the Novi Yechezkel in the Haftorah is he speaks about the Nossi. Who is the Nossi? He does not speak about a Melech. We're accustomed to think of the Melech HaMashiach. We're accustomed to think that the Malchus based on it, that the Bayis Shlishi, the royalty, the monarchy will be restored. But the Novi doesn't mention that. And the Novi keeps on speaking about a Nasi. The Nasi is president, the leader, but he is not the Melech. He doesn't have the status of being a Melech. And in the Torah we have mitzvah, some dosim melech. why does the Navi only speak about a Nasi? Why does he not speak about a Melech? And that's one of the questions that's raised regarding the Navi Yechezkel. What does he mean here? So there are some that say that the Navi is telling us in advance that the time of the Bayis Shlishi there will not be a Melech. That there will be someone called a Nasi. Now, how do you get to be a Nasi? That the Torah never explained to us. The tribes had received, the 12 tribes. But how did they become a Nasi? It also is not explained to us. Was it by election? Somebody had to choose them. Did Moshe choose them? It's not apparent that happened. So how will we have a Nasi at the time of the Bayis Shlishi? That's left open. It's like an open question. I don't know whether you could say that they envisioned elections. Or that the people would choose. But the mere fact that it does not say a Melech, now all of our prayers and all of our tradition is that Malchus Beis David will be restored. And that there will be a Melech. So then this chapter of the Navi Yechezkel is, so to speak, an outlier. Doesn't fit in. And that remains a question. Nevertheless, this Haftorah was chosen because it speaks about the Chodesh, the service that the Nasi will perform, and the korban that he will bring on the Chodesh, in the Bayis Shlishi, and also because of the fact that we are coming to the month of Nisan, the month of Geula, and therefore this is a Haftorah of Geula. It's a Haftorah that tells us what will be it, the redemptive quality that will occur by Klal Yisrael in the time of the Bayis Shlishi. And that's an underlying message that the Navi tells us. So there are many interpretations of this week's Haftorah to try and reconcile some of the problems. Problems are well known and discussed by all the Meforshim. Interesting that all of the modern critics and Bible critics, etc., are always they're of the opinion that they were the first ones to discover this problem, these issues. And because of that, therefore, they take terrible liberties with the text and with everything else. But the truth is that from the beginning on, all of the Meforshim, all of our holy scholars, all of the Rabbonim, always dealt with these problems. They always recognized what the difficulties were. They never hid them. But they never took the liberty of changing the text in order to make it fit the preconceived ideas that people may have. So when we hear the Haftorah this Shabbos, and you have to listen to the Haftorahs, they're there for a reason. It's very important to listen to them, try to understand them. We should bear in mind that we're talking here about the Bayis Shlishi, and that we're talking here about a Nasi and not about a Melech. And therefore, there is a certain aura of mystery involved in understanding this Haftorah and appreciating what the Rabbi is trying to teach us and what the true message is regarding this Haftorah. Hananya ben Akashia Omer Ratzak HaYivorach U'Lezrakel Yisrael. V'ticha hirbo lahem Torah mitzvot shenemar Arnoi Chapei Tzumam Tzidko Yaviu Torah v'Yadiyah.